Welcome to Lingua Latina Tutorials with Mr. K, Pensvm D. This video explains the new grammar and syntax found in Chapter 22 of the Lingua Latina per se Illustrata series. It is meant to accompany the Latina Disco text available from Focus Bookstore and the Pensvm D worksheets available from 50%Latin.blogspot.com or christianlanguage.com. Let's get into the text here and follow along with me at line 7, where we have Si quis villam intrare vult, januam pulsat et extra januam expectat. Si quis, if anyone wants to enter the house, he knocks on the door and waits outside the door. Si quis is quis is actually a contraction of aliquis, the indefinite relative pronoun meaning someone, and this form after si is quite common, where it loses its ali. So si quis is the same as si aliquis, and there's a little rhyme to help you remember when this happens. Same thing happens for aliquid, something. So aliquis and aliquid shortened to quis and quid after si nisi numen ne. And the rhyme is after si nisi numen ne, all the alis fall away, or all the alis drop away. Or sometimes people say after si nisi numen ne, ali takes a holiday. Choose your favorite one, but that will help you remember that after those questioning words, or si nisi numine, you will not see an ali, and you'll have the indefinite pronoun after it. Or if you do. Line 22 is our next new grammar feature. We see Janua clausa est. The door was closed. So this is just our third person singular perfect passive indicative. And the new feature, though, here, that's not new. The new feature you see in the margin that for this verb you see claudera, clausisse, clausomesse. So what these are called principal parts. Every verb in the LLPSI series, we have 3 principal parts. And from these 3 principal parts, you can form every tense, mood, and voice of the verbs that you need to form. Up till this point, we've only seen the infinitives of the verbs as far as like the dictionary entries. Now you see both the present active infinitive, claudera, meaning to close, clausisse, the perfect infinitive, to have closed, and the perfect passive infinitive, clausomesse, to have been closed. Okay, so you need to know the names of these 3 principal parts. That this is your present infinitive, your perfect infinitive, and your perfect passive infinitive. And then also you need to know how to form your stems, because from these 3 principal parts you get the stems to which you'll add the variety of endings that you've been learning so far for the present, imperfect, future, and perfect tenses. So for the present stem, for claudera, it's a third conjugation verb, so we take off the era, and so the stem is cloud, C-L-A-U-D, and to that we add our endings. For the perfect, so that's your present stem. Your perfect stem, to which you add your perfect endings, est et emusistis erunt. You take off the isse, and you get klaus. And then for your supine stem, what we call the supine stem, you take off, so for clausomesse, which is, clausum by itself is called the perfect passive participle, or the perfect participle. You get, take off the and you have your supine stem. Okay, in line 23, we see Janatore dormiente, canis vigilans Januam custodit. So while the doorman is sleeping, the dog awake is guarding the door, the dog being awake. So here we have dormiente, a present participle. And remember that participles are part adjective, part verb. And so it modifies, like an adjective that modifies janatore, and it is in the ablative case. Both janatore and dormiente are ablative. This is an ablative absolute in the present tense. So as we saw before with the present tense ablative absolute, we translate it as while this thing is going on, or as this thing is going on. And it's absolute, it's separate from the rest of the sentence. The sentence stands by itself without it. So the dog being awake guards the door, but then we add this element while the doorman is sleeping. So I want you to compare that form, the present form of dormiente with the ablative absolute, with line 119. I'm going to skip way ahead for this one. And we have here in 119, cane vincto tabellarius tandem intrat epistolamque ostendet janitori. And so what we have here is cane vincto with the passive, the perfect passive participle, rather than the dormiente, the active participle. And when you have the passive participle, we often translate this with the preposition after. So after cane vincto, literally with the dog having been chained up, or we could say after the dog was chained up, the mailman at last enters and shows his letter to the doorman. So they're both ablative absolutes. Just one is an active ablative absolute with the doorman sleeping, or while the doorman is sleeping, and here the passive ablative absolute after the dog was chained up, with the dog having been chained up. Okay, so now we got to go back to line 33 for the next new feature. And so down in line 33, we have opugnatum right here. Ego non venio villam opugnatum sicut hostis, nec pecuniam postulatum venio. So I am not coming to fight or to attack your house like an enemy, nor am I coming to demand money. So opugnatum, postulatum, these are new forms that we haven't seen before. These are defective verbal nouns called supines. And supines have two forms. There's a first supine that looks like this, which is just the accusative neuter, the accusative singular neuter form. And it's always going to be, the first supine is always going to be with a verb of motion. Here we have I'm coming to do this thing, I am going to do this thing. The motion then followed by the ending of this defective verbal noun gives you what we call the first supine construction. I am not coming to fight or attack your house. The supine stem from for opugnatum, this verb, the verb itself is opugnara, and so of the verb forms opugnara, opugnavisse, and opugnatum esse, the third principal part is the one from which we're going to get this supine, the supine stem that forms our supine. And notice the way that we translate this is with to attack. It's a purpose statement. The supine stems are formed by adding a T to the present stem. So the present stem of opugnare is opugna. We add a T to this, and then to that we add our supine ending There's another form of this, the second supine, which is formed with a long U, which is the fourth declension neuter ablative ending. But that it only shows up with special adjectives, not with verbs of motion like this. That shows up with say the adjectives like facile, it's easy, opugnatu, to fight, or difficile, it's difficult, opugnatu, to fight. It's still translated the same way, but it's formed with an ablative fourth declension neuter ending instead of this ending. In line, to see that an example of that, we can go to line 43. And we see Tabulario saying, Nomen meum non est facile dictu. My name is not easy to say. Dictu. Facile dictu. So again, this is the second supine. It is formed on the supine stem, which you get by adding a T to the present stem, which is dik. So dikt, and then we add u. If we had a verb of motion with this, we wanted to say he is going to speak, we could have it, or he's coming when it dictum, he's coming to speak. But when we have this adjective facile, or difficile or mirabile, all of those adjectives can trigger this second supine. We see another example of that here in line 46. Vox tua difficilis est auditu. So what triggered this form auditu here? It's the adjective difficilis. It's difficult, auditu, to hear you. If we were going to look up auditu in the dictionary, of course we wouldn't find auditu. We would find audio, audira, to hear, and then the perfect infinitive audivisse, to have heard, and then auditum esse, to have been heard. Auditum esse, that third principal part, is where we get our supine stem, so we can form auditu from that. In line 48, we have our next new feature, and that is, we see dictum est here. Mihi nomen est Tlepolemus, sicut iam dictum est. My name is Tlepolemus, just as was already said. Dictum est is our third person singular perfect passive indicative, but in the margin here we see the three principal parts of the verb dicere. So dicere, to say, present active infinitive. Dixisse, to have said, the perfect active infinitive, and dictum esse, to have been said, which is our perfect passive infinitive. And so from those three forms we can get our stems. So from dicere we would form our present, future, and imperfect tenses with the stem dic, D-I-C. The perfect tense would form from the stem dix, take off the isse, you get dix, D-I-X. And then our supine stem, which just adds a T to the present stem, so we get dict, and then we can add our endings to that. Those are the three stems you'll need to know. In line 49, we have another new feature. It's actually a review of a feature we've already seen. Janitor si erum salutatum venis, melius est alio tempora venira. So if you're coming salutatum erum, verb of motion venis, you are coming, first supine with it, to greet erum, my master. So what is the case number and gender of salutatum? Now it's a defective verbal noun. So as a noun, it does have case number gender. It's always going to be a first supine, always going to be accusative, neuter, singular, and it is translated again with to, and then the purpose clause, or indicating a purpose clause. He's coming to greet you. In line 72, we have another new feature, and that is here. Which says, homo teritus ex ostio cedera conatur, sed canis iratus pallium eius dentibus prehendit et tenet. So, homo teritus, the terrified man, tries to head out the door, ex ostio, but the angry dog grabs hold of his pallium, or his cloak, with its teeth and holds him there, tenet. So the new feature here is teritus. Teritus. This is our perfect participle. And so in the margin you can see the three principal parts of terrera: terrera, teruisse, and terratum esse. Esse often will be dropped off of that last form just to make it more easier to write in the margin. So terrera, to frighten; teruisse, to have frightened; terratum esse, to have been frightened. This third principal part can act, because the terratum itself is a participle, it can act as a participle like an adjective all by itself, modifying a noun. So homo teritus, the man having been frightened, remember that this is passive in nature, that you could also shorten that to the frightened man. So teritus from the participle can act just as an adjective by itself. Homo teritus, the frightened guy tries to head out the door. So if you're going to look this up in the dictionary, we would look under terrera. So you wouldn't find teritus, you're going to find terrera. Occasionally you'll find the participles listed separately as adjectives, but know that they do come from this verbal form, terrera, to frighten. And then the infinitive, teruisse, to have frightened, to have been frightened, terratum esse. What would be the stems? We go to terrera, take off the re, and we get terre for the present stem. From the present stem we would form present, imperfect, and future verbs. Teruisse, take off the isse, and you end up with teru. To that we would add our perfect endings for the perfect verbs. And then terratum esse, the supine, is terit, take off the And just quick review, to form our supine stem, we could take our present stem and add a t. The second conjugation is the one conjugation where that changes slightly. The e changes to an I before the t in the second conjugation to get from the present stem to the supine stem. Okay, the next feature is in line 86. And here we see remoe canem inquitile, iste canis ferox me intrares non sinit. Take your dog, get your dog out of here, remove your dog, that guy says. That dog of yours, iste canis, that wild dog of yours, is not letting me enter. So this word, iste, you see in the margin, iste, ista, istud, is another demonstrative pronoun like ille, illa, illud, that one, and then hic, haec, hoc, this one. It declines just like ille, but instead of just that thing pointing something out, it's referring specifically to one that belongs to the person you're talking to. So that thing of yours, that dog of yours, iste canis ferox. Because it declines like ille, you should be familiar with the endings. For the masculine, it would be iste, istem, istius, isti, isto, paralleling the forms of ille, ille, illem, ilius, illi, illo. And then the plural isti, istos, istorum, istis, istis, just like illi, illos, illorum, illis, illis. The feminine and neuter forms follow that same pattern as you remember from ille. So those are all the new features for chapter 22. Thanks for listening.